Hello, my name is Emilio Martinez, and today I have my bilingual education ISI timeline highlighting the 10 major events that I think are very critical to the development of bilingual educational policy throughout the years. Okay, so first we'll start off with in 1868, the 14th Amendment. We all know that the 14th Amendment gave all natural born citizens the right to vote. It extended from those who owned land, and it provided the opportunity for all men to have share their voice to vote. This is important in ELL development because it gives voice and opportunity for those who advocate ELL programs and allows them to vote for matters they believe that are important. Next, we fast forward about 45 years later to Meyer versus Nebraska. And this court case is a court case that the Supreme Court ruled as Nebraska having an unconstitutional law because it prohibited the teaching of modern foreign languages in public education. And so Meyer was a public school teacher teaching the German language when he was convicted by the state. But the court ruled and found that it was in direct violation of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. The next event we have is Brown versus the Board of Education. And we know that this one is important because it revoked the prior ruling of separate but equal schools during the Plessy versus Ferguson court case. So this is important because ELLs now, no matter what race, had the right to an education and cannot be denied or segregated. It allowed the integration of all types of students into one school, to one campus. The National Defense Education Act was implemented to improve and strengthen all levels of education in the American school system and encourage students to pursue higher levels of schooling upon the departure of high school. And it provided funding and scholarships to different schools that had ELL and bilingual programs. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. The civil rights movement took place in the 1960s and it banned discrimination based on race or someone's origin. It was important to ELL education because other races that spoke different languages fought back against discrimination, and so it made it more appropriate to have different races of different languages to be implemented into public education. These new languages were finally gaining recognition of value rather than being oppressed under those who spoke English. The 1965 Immigration Act was an act that enabled immigrants to more freely come to the United States and integrate themselves and be planted and uprooted in the American society. This undoubtedly led to the expansion of having different variety of languages spoken in schools, with just the sheer influx of new immigrants coming in. The Bilingual Education Act of 1968, for the first time funding was given to a bilingual program, which is very important in the history of bilingual education, and it recognized the needs of LEP. In the first year, it provided funding for 76 bilingual education programs that served students who spoke over 14 languages. It was important because ELLs finally had a bill that was solely funded by the government and to help promote bilingual programs across the nation. 1974, Luau versus Nichols. The court ruled that school districts receiving federal funds must act to correct students' linguistic deficits to ensure they receive adequate instruction. This law definitely pushed and supported ELLs. It guaranteed student education regardless of their language background and no longer denied an equal and identical curriculum as other students. So again, it took away from the separate but equal type concept and allowed for students to be integrated into a classroom environment that is equal and sharing a similar curriculum as the students around them as their peers. The 1990 Individual with Disabilities Education Act was enforced to provide the assurance and the support to the students with disabilities, and it took away from the previous act that was in place, focusing on handicap instead of ability-wise, and instead of trying to promote and encourage student support. Um, is important for all students because it ensures the support needed for success, not only to um, any student that goes into a educational program, or not just to ELLs, but to students also with special needs. The 2001 No Child Left Behind. It puts special focus on ensuring that states and schools boost the performance of certain groups of all students, and so that no students were to be left behind, falling behind in their coursework or in progress in the schooling. They should the school is responsible for performance of bilingual students by limiting funds if requirements are not met. So this is very important because a lot of schools needed those fundings, and so they deemed it important to focus their efforts onto bilingual programs. It says, after 3 consecutive years of being in the program, English-only instruction must begin. And so it not only supported those ELO students, but also gave them a criteria that after an extended amount of time, that eventually English would become the first language they would have to pursue education and to continue their educational career. The 2015 Every Student Succeeds Act took aim at creating a better law that focused on a clear goal of fully preparing all students for success in college and careers. It replaced its predecessor, the No Child Left Behind Act. And so its main focus was to educate on student preparation for college and a professional career, kind of extending off of the No Child Left Behind Act and really being intentional and goal focused on what they wanted to have students achieve in their later life. And so it ensured commitment to equal opportunity for all students. And so it wasn't limited to those they thought would have the most potential in professional careers, but extended to all the students who to have access to be able to pursue professional careers and pursue their dreams.